President Obama said today the United States is extending a hand of friendship to the Cuban people following Castro's death. Errol Barnett has more from Washington.
We believe in democracy.
In his first TV interview on CBS back in 1959, Fidel Castro predicted Cuba would have open elections after its U.S.-backed dictator was overthrown. But instead, Cuba has had more than 5 decades of communist rule and clampdowns on dissidents. Following Castro's death, President Obama released this statement. The relationship between the United States and Cuba was marked by discord and profound political disagreements. During my presidency, we have worked hard to put the past behind us. Mr. Obama's easing of travel restrictions and re-establishment of diplomatic ties were done through executive order, which the next president could reverse.
The people of Cuba get nothing.
Candidate Trump criticized the president's actions. Today, President-elect Trump said his administration will do all it can to ensure the Cuban people can finally begin their journey toward prosperity and liberty. Alan Gross, the American imprisoned for 5 years in Cuba and freed as part of Obama's deal, wrote, "History will never absolve Fidel Castro, but perhaps now the voices of Cuba will be heard." 3 U.S. senators of Cuban descent all described Castro's treatment of Cubans as brutal. Senator Marco Rubio spoke to CBS by phone.
He's not a heroic figure in any way. And in fact, I think will go down if history has an honest assessment of him as one of the most brutal dictators the Western Hemisphere has ever known.
It's been just over a year since the Cuban flag began flying once again outside its embassy here in Washington. Diplomats will be listening closely to President-elect Trump's words to see where the relationship between the U.S. and Cuba goes from here. Rena, Mr. Trump said he joins Cuban Americans today in the hopes of one day seeing a free Cuba.
Errol Barnett in Washington. Thanks, Errol.